Welcome to another edition of Diplomatic Channel. I am Amarachi Ubani. Remember this?
The late Dr. Martin Luther King once said, and I quote, "We must discover the power of love, the redemptive power of love. And when we do that, we will make of this old world a new world. For love is the only way." There's power in love. Don't underestimate it. Don't even over-sentimentalize it. There's power in love. If you don't believe me, think about a time when you first fell in love. The whole world seemed to center around you and your beloved.
That was an excerpt from the sermon the Duke and Duchess of Sussex heard at their wedding on Saturday, watched by millions around the world. The wedding that brought several nations together, at least huddled up around their TVs to watch history being made, as Meghan Markle made history, being the only other person of mixed race to enter the royal family by marriage. Now back to the sermon. Bishop Michael Curry, the first African-American head of the Episcopal Church in the United States, quoted civil rights hero, the late Dr. Martin Luther King, and focused on love. That may be a sermon the world needs to hear right now, as just last week, leading up to the wedding, the world condemned the killing of over 60 Palestinians by the Israeli security forces as they protested the opening of the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem on Monday. Our governments around the world, including Nigeria, condemned the use of live bullets during the protests in the Gaza Strip, which also coincided with the Palestinian Day of Nakba, or the catastrophe depicting the day the nation of Israel was born in 1948. The Palestinian ambassador to the UN, Riyad Mansour, who expressed the feelings of his government at a UN Security Council meeting, demanded action on Gaza and accused the United States of celebrating an illegal action.
Of course, this massacre is taking place at the same time when the United States of America illegally and unilaterally and in a provocative way is opening its embassy. It is very, very tragic that they're celebrating an illegal action while Israel is killing and injuring thousands of Palestinian civilians. This is the life of the Palestinian people, and those who think that opening the embassy open doors to peace, let them look at what is really happening in the Gaza Strip. Is killing 45 civilians and injuring 2,000 would be helpful to open doors for peace, or is it deepening the resentment and the atmosphere of hatred between people instead of moving in the direction of peace?
At a special session of the UN Human Rights Council on Friday, Israel was sharply criticized for killing Palestinians in Gaza and the treatment of the Palestinians, though the U.S. came to Israel's defense like it has always done over the years. Now, later the Council adopted a resolution condemning Israel for violations of international law, including disproportionate and indiscriminate use of force by Israeli occupying forces against Palestinian civilians. In the recorded vote, 29 members voted yes, 14 abstained, and 2 countries, the US and Australia, voted no.
The voting is now closed.
Earlier, I spoke to Professor Bola Akinteriwa of the Bolitax Center for Diplomacy and Strategic Studies on what's next for the Middle East peace process. Was the US wrong to have moved its embassy to Jerusalem?
I think it is quite wrong, even though there can be a domestic justification for it. Internationally, it is very, very wrong. Now let's begin with the domestic foundation. Because the U.S. Congress enacted, a relocation, Embassy Relocation Act, as far back as 1995. That gives a legitimate basis for any American president to relocate the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. According to the Act, the President of the United States is actually mandated, empowered to waive every 6 months the application, the implementation of the Act. So the previous presidents have been avoiding implementing the Act. As a matter of fact, the Act provides that by May 1999, all right, the U.S. Embassy should have been relocated. But beyond that, beyond the municipal law of the U.S., internationally, it is wrong. Wrong for many, many obvious reasons. Reason one is that the United Nations, United Nations General Assembly Resolution 181 provides that the city of Jerusalem has to be given a special status, international special status, meaning that we need to have a sort of a condominium. But the responsibility for the administration of Jerusalem was specifically given to the United Nations. So in this case, the United States was part and parcel of the collective decision that was ab initio taken. The Resolution 181, everybody must understand it very well. It did not provide for any national sovereignty over Jerusalem at all.